we're just going to go on air just like that. Hello, folks. I'm Danny Grizzle with Satterwhite Log Homes, and this is Fred Roberts.
How you doing? Fred Roberts over here.
We're going to get this done, Fred.
I'm ready. I'm ready, and the people are ready. Some of them are probably waiting on dinner or watch Gunsmoke or something.
We better keep this short because I've got a Whataburger over here that's
I saw
chilling.
that Whataburger, and you know you can cut those things in 3 pieces now or in halves. Either way, I'm willing to work with you.
All right. So, you know, the topic of this week's program was insurance claims, and just to give a little background here, Fred and I took a little road trip together, like a month ago?
Right about a month and a half. A great road trip, by the way.
Went out west to New Mexico, wound up at the Satterwhite Mill in Chama, which is where I made that picture of Fred in his shades there, because in addition to homeowners insurance, I think that you help us with some of our business insurance.
We basically write everything there is to write from cradle to grave with logs and timber frame homes. Yes.
Yeah.
And that, of course, that includes the mill application. We'll insure the restoration people and to the homes, and we get to see a lot of really neat homes. And I've got the greatest insurance job you'll ever imagine. We don't see too many claims, even though there's a few occasionally. But I get to see a lot of great country, and I get to meet a lot of great people.
So let's just do a quick recap about how, because the focus of this is going to be claims because of me listening to your phone conversation as we were driving down the road for a couple of days, and just to keep this simple. But let's just touch on, because folks will wonder about what the difference is between, say, insuring a log home and insuring any other type of home. And a lot of those people might be building outside the city limits for the first time. So just let's tick off 5 items that'll get people's wheels spinning. Okay.
The issue of log homes, the first thing you got to remember is that with a log home, it's different from a conventional home in how it's built. When you're when you go in and you purchase your logs, and from Satterwhite or one of the other log manufacturers, they deliver them out to your space or your lot or your acreage, whatever it may be. They offload those materials, and when they offload them, those become your property. Unlike a conventional home is normally done where they will come out, they'll build the slab, they'll build the slab, then they'll do the framework. And you remember, you got about 5 stages on a conventional home, whereas with a log home, you basically got 2, and that's the foundation and the logs. Well, with a conventional home, it's done in stages. And so you've got, they're going to come out there, put the slab in, then they're going to put the framework up, and that takes a certain amount of time. So the builder normally invoices you by the process. So in other words, this month you may be invoiced $30,000. Next month you may be invoiced another 30, and it goes on and on and on until the house is completed. Remember, a log home is going to be brought out there, it's going to be put together, and basically your shell can be put together pretty quick. Now, as soon as the logs get out there and all your people are out there, on average, we see them put together in about 6 weeks. But I will tell you, since the 2020-21, what we've seen is because of the delay of windows and different plumbing and so on and so forth, the time period is taking longer. But remember, when they offload that stuff, that becomes yours. So the insurance you buy, which is builder's risk, needs to be in place by the time you start building your home.
Yeah, that builder's risk and the process and the value of the materials at the job site That's going to be one difference with when you're building any custom home, but a log home in particular, because that cash flow is different because of delivering so much value up front with the initial log delivery. But just as the ongoing homeowners insurance, you're going to be looking at rating factors such as distance to a fire department, those kind of things. If you've never owned a rural home before, that's where you're really going to see a difference, not so much because it's a log home. There's these myths, and I'm going to show one or two horrible pictures here in a second. There's a myth that log homes tend to burn or something, which is not true. However, I'm going to show a couple of pictures, because what's going on here, and the reason we're doing this in the evening, unlike most of our Satterwhite Live, is tomorrow and Saturday are the Satterwhite Fall Seminar, and Fred's here to speak to the folks who are attending the seminar, and so you'd really get to see and get to know Fred a great deal over the next couple of days if you were here with us, and hopefully you can attend some other time. But let's just touch. I'm going to show a couple of insurance claim pictures, part of your presentation that you'll speak to tomorrow.
Okay.
And this is the stuff that you're never going to see in Satterwhite catalogs or brochures or on our website. I was thinking to myself, Fred, because I have photographed. We're not even going to try to talk to these pictures. I'm just going to show people that bad things do happen and you do need insurance. But I think I've photographed hurricanes, I've photographed tornadoes. Satterwhite has built so many tens of thousands of homes, all spread through the woods, all around the country. And over time, I think the only two natural disasters I can think of right off that I haven't photographed are an asteroid strike and a volcano. So
we don't cover volcanoes or asteroid strikes.
let's see if
we'll charge you for it. Okay, go ahead.
And so this was an arson fire, just so an estate and a conflict with some people. But we're not going to talk about these. Just that when you need insurance, you really do need it. These are pictures. This is after a hurricane here, and timber blown down on a house. Let me get rid of that logo that's in the way there. After a tornado, just scoured. One of the things that I was real impressed with, I can see a temporary trailer back there. This is some tornadoes, a swarm of tornadoes in southwestern Missouri a few years ago. And those temporary trailers like that last one there, all the insurance companies had adjusters on site within a day or so, even though their own local agents' offices had been destroyed. As you can tell, just blew down all the markers in the cemetery, just conventional construction. So we're just not going to go into this stuff. You can come to the seminar to hear the stories about all these things. But
Danny, I will tell you that the way that log homes are built, stacking like they do. We were looking at that tree a while ago, and the tree fell down on it. Think about it: if you had logs stacked up like that, and the tree falls, it's only going to go as far as the compression will allow with those logs, and so that tree is not going to penetrate through that. Now, what it will do, remember the roof, and I'll tell people this all the time: if they ever start putting logs on the roof of these houses, they'll put me out of business, because we don't see the damage that you'd normally see on a conventional home, whether it's a tornado, or they'll actually rip the roof off. A tornado can rip the roof off of a log home, but I've never seen the walls disappear just because they're joined. Mm-hmm. They're going to, when you put a log home together, you'll see they put screws in there about 16 inches long, and they just don't move. I do not believe, this is me speaking, and I do not believe there's a safer home to live in than a log home.
I believe that as well, and I've been into so many disaster areas following all kinds of natural disasters over the last 20, 30 years, and the log home will be the last one standing. The others will be swept down rivers and floods, and in fact, we've had a number of, I've actually got audio of a lady, I've got to get this on our website actually, saying all of her neighbors came because they knew that their own houses, this was a hurricane, and they saw the rotation it was gonna be a direct hit. And all the neighbors got in their house.
I know the house you're talking about.
Yeah. And I mean, she just flat said, and I've got the audio, we didn't ask her to say this. She says, this log home saved my family's life. And it was a situation where a tree had fallen across the roof and extensive damage, but none of the neighbors were left standing at all.
Danny, we insured a house, just a quick story to give you a reference. We insured the builder's risk on a house, I think it was last year, the year before, where a tornado had come through this neighborhood. And of course, out in the rural areas, your houses are spaced apart. They're not all together. So it came through and made about a 5-mile swath through this rural area. It destroyed every house for about a mile. Every house except for one. And that one house was a log home. Now, my client didn't live in that log home. Unfortunately, he lived in a conventional home that was torn up. He's a police officer. I can't think of his name right now, but he was a police officer. Him and his wife were okay. I think he had 3 kids, and those kids were, they were a foster home, and they would take in children. And one of the little girl was killed in this storm, and actually met President Biden came in after the storm to look at the thing and met the family and so on and so forth. And this was in Tennessee. But where I'm going with this is the guy told me on the telephone, he said, Mr. Roberts, he said, I've got people I'm responsible for. So I own my land, and I want to be just as safe as my neighbor was in that log home down the street. Now, I can find out that guy's name, but I will tell you that we covered the insurance on that house, and that was just, it was kind of the guy got a little emotional with me on it, but it was a story about how log homes work. And I'm glad to be a part of log home, but I'm sorry, Danny.
Well, it really is. It's like if you've never been up close and personal with a log home, you can think of railroad ties, and it's like people use old railroad ties for landscaping timbers.
Sure.
And you can interleave those things together, and it's like a laminated. You could hit. Well, they support locomotives all the time, day in, day out. These timbers of this size are what hold up mountains in deep hard rock mines in the Sierra Nevada and all that. So it's they are incredibly strong.
You know, Danny, the thing that I get asked by people that are thinking about building a log home, they all ask the same question. What about fires? You ever see any fires? What do you tell me about the fires? Well, the first thing I think of in my mind every time they say that is a Gunsmoke show or a John Wayne movie where they go over there and they shoot the air, it hits the log home, and the next thing you know, it's engulfed with flames. I guarantee that back when they were doing those movies like that, they had to pour gasoline or some type of igniter on there to get those things to burn. Because it's such a large mass that a simple fire will not catch a log home on get it to combust. It's just not going to happen. What's going to happen, you would have to have a constant, steady flame. And where you would find that would be in the woods or in some of these areas that people love to build log homes. They love to build, you know what, they build log homes where people want to live. And so sometimes that's on the side of a mountain and then up in the Rockies or the maybe the, what is that, the Davy National, what is that, what's that, Davy Crockett National Forest. But we hadn't had any big fires over there, I don't think.
That's in Tennessee, I'd imagine.
No, man, that's here in Texas.
I don't know.
Remember old Davy Crockett came to Texas and fought at the Alamo. I'm going to have to visit with this guy and bring him up on his Texas history.
I know where Davy Crockett was born, and it was
Tennessee.
Central Tennessee, right on the Alabama border.
There you go. Well, some of the most famous Texans there are, Sam Houston came from Tennessee too.
That's right.
And was baptized down in Independence, Texas, not too far from where we live. Well, anyway, so it takes a lot.
You know what he said when he came out of the baptismal waters, don't you? This is my Sam Houston quote.
Oh, no, here we go.
The preacher announced to the crowd assembled that all Sam Houston's sins had been washed away, and Sam Houston said, "Heaven help the fishes."
There you go.
All right, this is turning into another road trip with us.
There you go. We have a good time riding. But anyway, so the fires I've seen on log homes, we had one a couple of years ago in Fort Collins, Colorado, where a boiler had been put in backwards, and it started a fire down in the basement area, and we had smoke damage. Normally what you see with, if it's a fire, normally what you'll see is a kitchen fire, something to that effect. But let me remind you that if you are in the woods and the woods are on fire, that doesn't mean that your house will not catch on fire. That just means your house can catch on fire, but you will have time to get out of that house unless you're trapped or there's some unfortunate circumstances.
Well, that's not the problem that maybe some people might imagine. We've got extensive literature, and actually, this would get way into a big discussion about the urban wildfire interface in the particularly active in the western, because we've had such a big western wildfire. But if you keep your place cleaned up, the reason that you can have a fire of big trees out in the forest is the accumulation of leaf drop and twigs, and so each log has essentially a bunch of kindling. Anybody who's been in Boy Scouts know that you can't take a match to a big log and get anything to happen.
Exactly.
You've got to have a ladder of smaller fuels that will burn for a length of time before you can ignite a log. So it's just not it's not the problem that people say. Let's jump forward in the purpose of this. I just wanted to cover, you had like 2 simple rules, because Fred and I were talking about insurance on this big road trip to New Mexico we had.
Sounds pretty exciting, I bet.
It was interesting. It really was. But you know, I think that an insurance guy can be, he can be your best friend in times of trouble, but also there's some situations. Let's talk about the claims process, and you had 2 simple rules. And this really isn't specific to log homes. This would be for if you ever have to make a claim on your homeowner's policy. You know what I'm talking about here, Fred? You remember what we did?
You know, I had so much wisdom on that trip, I don't remember what 2 items I told you.
Well, number 1, what you should do is you should stop ongoing damage.
Correct.
So if you've had, if your roof system has been compromised and it's leaking water, get some tarps on that roof. But beyond that, once you've stabilized that house, this was some situations you were actually dealing with, because Fred's on the phone a lot when you're in the car with him, I'll tell you that. But I think people, and I knew this independently, nothing to do with Satterwhite, but there are a certain group of disreputable operators out there, I'll just say, that follow storms and things, and they'll tell you, well, your insurance is going to pay this. And I think that you had some people who jumped the gun and were persuaded by people to pay big repair expenses out of their own pocket and expecting to be reimbursed, and they took all these actions before the adjuster could make it on site. And that creates a bad situation.
It becomes a problem. And he's exactly right. What you want to do is, if you have damage, if it's a roof or whatever the case may be, document what's going on. But first, if it's your roof, get up there and put it. We've all seen those blue tarps on top of the roof. Get up there, or get a professional to get up there and cover your roof to stop any more damage, such as water damage or wind damage or whatever. Get a professional to get up there and do it. Give your adjuster, who works for the insurance company, and they work for you too, because the longer it takes, the longer it drags out, we have found that it costs more money. So get your adjuster out there and get things started. you know, we can all be persuaded to do things because somebody tells us you're doing it wrong, or you'd be better off to get a professional to mitigate the issues. Most insurance companies, now I'm not going to say all of them because there's a bad apple in every box, but most insurance companies want to put their client back where they were. So take care of the damage, or make sure that no further damage happens. Make sure you're safe. Call your insurance company and explain to them that someone needs to get out there and please rush if they can, or do whatever they can do to get somebody out there. If you have a big storm like recently we had in Florida, they're hiring all types of third parties and everybody's going out there and they're actually working as hard as they can. But if you're not involved in something like that, just do it in stages. Cover that roof up, or move the damage away if it's a tree, if you can get your neighbors to help you, or if you can get actually the best thing to do is get a professional tree trimmer over there to take care of that problem. Let me explain something to you real quick. I'm going to tell you one other thing real quick. Get you a piece of paper and write this down. If you got a neighbor that's got a tree on your fence line that if it falls down, it's going to fall on your house or falls in your direction, you make sure you give your neighbors warning that that tree is an issue because you're concerned that it could fall on your house, and you make them aware of that. Otherwise, if that tree on their property falls over on the top of your house, that's your problem. It is not theirs. That's an act of God. It's earthly made, and it's on your house, and you got to handle it. Whereas if that tree falls on your house from your neighbor's property and you gave them a letter or asked them to take care of it, that you were concerned, it now becomes their problem. So just a little tidbit, insurance tidbits you might want to know. So go around the house this weekend, get you a cold drink, walk around your house and look, see if you got any neighbor's trees that could fall on your place. Otherwise, if you have damage, it's your responsibility.
I've got 3 tree on the house stories, including one coming right at me.
Okay.
During the Dallas Cowboy game, and there's nothing you can do but sit there and watch it and say, that's it. But it didn't come in the house.
Yeah,
so
our big issues with claims are tree. Believe it, my wife's over here. You can't see her, but my wife's over here.
Come.
And she's a pretty woman, and she's younger than me. That's what insurance guys do. Well, anyway, and so she would tell you the same thing. She works with me, and thank goodness she does. I'm glad she doesn't work for somebody else. But she would tell you that most of the claims we see are tree claims, or your standard hail and wind claims on log homes. Next.
That's it.
That's it?
Y'all got just Fred and Vicki just got into town, and y'all got just enough time to grab something to eat, and we're going to be doing the seminar in the morning.
I didn't give my phone number.
I put a link to your website on
did you?
in the show notes.
Hey, if you have a question about log homes, we write in 41 states. You call me and ask for me, Fred Roberts, and I'll return your phone call. There's people all over this country that have my cell phone, and you would think that was a horrible mistake to do, but I'll tell you, I hardly ever get a phone call about a claim because I insure log homes. I'm a smart man.
If for some reason you can't find Fred's phone number, just call us here at Satterwhite, and we've got a stack of his business cards, and we'll be sure to get you in touch with Fred. Man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you rushing over here in lieu of your dinner, and here we are.
This isn't about, well, your dinner's sitting over there and we're fixing to cut it in half.
You'll be proud to know that while this hour since everybody else left, I've been listening, going a road trip with Fred, and you get used to his musical tastes, and I've been looking through some music to play just off Fred's playlist tomorrow.
Oh, man.
We're going to hear some George Jones.
Man, if y'all aren't going to be...
Little Johnny Mathis.
Oh, man. I tell you what, if you're not going to be here, you need to find out when the next one is, because it is. Let me tell you what, and this is my last thing to say. It is well worth the effort. I live in a log home, and I learned about them right here. I appreciate it.
People come to this thing 2 and 3 times, and we start to suspect it's because they like the food so much.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, they feed you well. They feed you well.
That's basically, I mean, it's $50 a person to attend a Satterwhite seminar, and it's a 2-day, basically covers the cost of the catering. So, all right. Thank you, Fred. And there's a fade to black on here someplace.
Fade
Here we
to
go.
black.
Okay, let's quit talking because we're still on the air. I do like those Roy Orbison shades.